This is the wood materials delivery induction for the Longreach Mill and Export Terminal. The Longreach Mill and Export Terminal, located in the Tamar Valley, is operated by Foraco Proprietary Limited. Foraco owns and operates an integrated business for the production of various wood-based products grown from their own plantation estates, which are predominantly located across the north of Tasmania. Foraco engage specialist contractors to harvest and then transport logs and in some cases wood chips to their mill and export terminal at Longreach, where the logs are further processed for export. In doing so, the log haulage contractors form one of the links between Foraco's two main operational divisions of forestry and processing. All log transit arrangements between the forest coupe and the mill site are made to standards specified by Foraco's Plantation Forestry Division under contractual arrangements, where among other matters, contractor principals are charged with the health, safety and environmental management aspects of the various work sites. The delivery process, while within the Longreach mill site property boundary, is however managed by Foraco's Processing Division, and as you would realise, any person who enters a managed work site is required to operate under the terms and conditions specified by that worksite's manager. Therefore, this induction outlines various requirements that you as a driver must know for the safe and consistent delivery of wood materials to Foraco's Longreach Mill and Export Terminal. So, let's get on with it. Foraco have a suite of policy documents that you must be aware of. The policies provide high-level direction as to how Foraco manage environmental matters and occupational health and safety, including drugs and alcohol, in the workplace. Copies of these policies will be provided to you as part of a package to support this induction process. When inside the mill site property boundary, it is a requirement that drivers comply with Foraco's directions. Essentially, this can be done by undertaking your duties in accordance with Foraco's documented standard operating procedures, or if a standard procedure is encountering a problem during its execution, for example, operating as directed by the site's permanent staff members. If you are ever unsure of any particular requirement, the site's management team can be consulted. The site's management team are
Tim Duncombe,
Longreach Manager, Phil O'Sine, Longreach Maintenance Supervisor, and Barry Yule, Longreach Production Supervisor. In order to work on this Foraco site, you must have successfully completed this induction process. You will be provided a wood materials delivery induction assessment form that you must complete competently before being granted access privileges. Of course, if you require assistance with reading or other skills in order to complete the assessment, please let your site contact know before undertaking the assessment. If you pass the competency assessment, you'll be provided with an access ID card for reference if ever required. Additionally, as drivers are involved in repetitions of the same basic tasks on our mill site, we require that you are inducted into Foraco's standard operating procedures as follows. Log delivery drivers are to be inducted to 3 SOPs, while pine chip delivery drivers are to be inducted to 1. Induction to an SOP involves you reading the procedure with an opportunity for you to ask questions for clarification if required. When you are confident that you understand the details within the SOP, you will be required to sign a form acknowledging that you understand your accountabilities. You are welcome to keep a printed copy of the initial SOP for your own reference. However, please be aware that printed copies may become outdated over time. Consequently, this site induction process and SOP inductions may need to be completely refreshed over longer time periods at the discretion of Foraco. A current and up-to-date copy of all SOPs should be available from Weybridge staff for your reference, if ever required. Logically, once you have acknowledged an SOP, you'll be expected to operate in strict compliance with all elements of that SOP. Also note that if you undertake any task other than those described by the SOP, you must first obtain approval from Foraco's permanent staff to provide Foraco with assurance that adequate risk control measures are in place. This includes, for example, maintenance work done on your rig, like replacing tyres while parked on the site's access road. While within the mill site and outside your vehicle, you must wear PPE. The minimum requirements for the site are helmet, high-vis vest or shirt with day-night reflective strips, steel cap boots, and eye protection. Gloves and hearing protection may also be required or advisable, depending on your task. Contractors are expected to provide their own PPE. PPE is expected to be worn as you exit your truck cab, even if you're working on your rig outside the mill compound, for example on the mill access road. If you observe a hazard or are involved in an incident that has any safety, health or environmental implications while on a Foraco site, it is a mandatory requirement that you report the issue to your Foraco site representative. This includes near misses, damage to equipment or inappropriate behaviour. A summary of emergency procedures can be found posted in work areas around the site. You will also find an emergency plan map in your induction package, showing firefighting infrastructure and 2 emergency assembly areas. If you need to report an emergency situation, weighbridge staff should be your first point of contact. If a fire breaks out, your first response should be to report the fire by raising an alarm. A secondary response, if it is safe to do so, is to combat the fire with the available infrastructure until the site fire crew attends, and thereafter follow directions from the fire crew. If it is necessary to evacuate the site, an evacuation alarm will be triggered from the weighbridge, which sounds like this. If you hear the evacuation alarm, move promptly and with caution to your then closest emergency assembly area and await further instructions there. If it is necessary to contact the site's management team directly, telephone numbers are shown here. Delivery routes for the site are shown on the wood materials delivery map included with your induction package. You will see from the map the overall property commences at the junction of the mill access road and the East Tamar Highway, and it is worth noting that this is the point at which Foraco's management responsibilities and authorities commence. Other key points on the map include a limit beyond which engine brakes are not allowed to be used and speed limit zones. Also shown is a region where, if the way is clear, incoming log trucks can cross from their left-hand side of the road pavement to the right, so they can then approach the entry weighbridge after a wide turn leading to a straight-on approach to the weighbridge deck. While the crossover zone will not be a surprise to experienced delivery drivers, the existence of the truck crossover zone is now being routinely communicated to all persons who are engaged on the site. However, we remind drivers to exercise caution when undertaking this manoeuvre, as casual visitors will remain unaware of this practice. The crossover manoeuvre should only be carried out if the pathway is clear and at the speed limit of 20 km an hour or less. If you're at all uncertain, stop, wait, and use your indicators or radio to communicate with other road users as appropriate. There are standards of behaviour that are expected to be observed by all people on Foraco operational sites. Harassment, discrimination, victimisation or vilification will not be tolerated. Nor will theft or unauthorised removal of materials from the site. A security search of vehicles on site may be carried out at any time. In accordance with Foraco's drug and alcohol policy, we require that no intoxicating liquor or other illicit drugs are to be consumed on the site. Nor should you be under the influence of alcohol or other illicit drugs. Please also be aware that some medications can negatively affect your ability to work safely and protect the health of others. If you are unsure about whether a medication you are currently or were recently taking could be a safety issue, please raise the issue with the site supervisor or manager before commencing any task. Other standards of behaviour include: smoking is only permitted in the main car park where there is a secure disposal point and prohibited at all other locations on site. Fire hoses are not to be used for washdowns. Do not bring pets onto the site. Wastes are to be disposed of only in identified waste bins and skips. The speed limit on the main access road is 60 km an hour, reducing first to 40 km an hour and then to 20 km an hour on approach to the weighbridge and main car park. The speed limit within the mill site compound is 20 km an hour. Seat belts are to be worn while underway. Be considerate of all other drivers, particularly of large plant, that have restricted visibility. Photography is not permitted unless by agreement. Contamination. Contamination of the wood production process is a serious matter for Foraco and our customers. Contaminants can cause significant damage to processing equipment and process materials and potentially cause very large financial losses to Foraco or Foraco's customers. A contaminant is any material other than a wood chip which may become mixed in with or becomes attached to the pure wood chip products. Potential contaminants can be man-made or natural. They could be plastics, rubber, metal, oil and other lubricants or fuels, wood other than a wood chip pole base materials, rocks or charcoal. Log delivery drivers must be especially careful to avoid bringing in rocks and other foreign material within their loads in order to prevent serious damage occurring to Foraco's shipping infrastructure. Foraco's industrial sites are managed to minimise environmental risks and impacts. The two key environmental issues relating to wood deliveries are the potential for oil spills and the subsequent disposal of any oily contaminated materials, and noise. It is important to note that noise from the Longreach site is regulated under the Environmental Management and Pollution Control Act, and further, that while your trucks are on the Foraco property, the noise made by your truck is included within these regulated site limits. These regulations place progressively lower noise level limits for day, evening and night when measured at any nearby sensitive location such as a residential property. Noise emissions from exhaust brakes in particular tend to have a low or bass tone. Because of their low tone, their noise waves will travel great distances before they die off. As a result, Foraco have set a requirement that exhaust brakes on delivery trucks are not to be used on entry after trucks pass under the railway line on the access road. What is chain of custody? For forest product industries, chain of custody traces the path taken by products from the forest to the consumer, including each stage of harvesting, haulage, processing, transformation, manufacturing and distribution, particularly where progress to the next stage of the supply chain involves a change of ownership. Chain of custody certification of Foraco's business systems is designed to provide a credible guarantee to our customers, whether that is a downstream customer business or the final end consumer, that products which are sold with Foraco's chain of custody certificates are in fact originating from well-managed certified forests. As a consequence, Foraco have strict requirements that allow the company to trace each and every load of logs or chips that are delivered to Foraco's processing sites. These requirements will be clearly communicated to you if your business activity is directly involved in Foraco's internal production chain. If this is the case, then strict compliance to all chain of custody requirements will be mandatory if your organisation wishes to provide ongoing services to Foraco. General amenities on the site include toilets located in the Visitors Centre car park, first aid, report to the weighbridge, all Foraco staff are trained in first aid if required, and UHF radio, set to channel 26. This is used for general communication on the site. As UHF is a public band, users are expected to avoid profane language while engaged by Foraco. This completes the Foraco site induction presentation. Please complete and sign the induction assessment form and present it to your site representative. After the assessment form has been reviewed, you will be notified by Foraco whether you have been successful in being granted contractor access privileges to the site.